Let's talk about gifted child behavior problems at home. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about gifted children. Gifted children feel deeper, question more, and resist control sooner. So what do we do about that? In this video, I'm going to share with you some of the experiences that I've had parenting some gifted children, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that you can do at home to help appeal to that gifted child's great intelligence. In this video, we're going to be looking through the lens of self-government. Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. This is a principle of freedom. Oftentimes, what happens with gifted children is there is a misapplied intelligence. They're smart, that's true. They think through lots of things, that's true. But do they have the principle to back up all the things they're thinking? It's not always the case. For many years, I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18. There were multiple neurodiversities. There was ADHD, ODD, RAD, FAS, kleptomania, compulsive lying, autism spectrum, personality disorder, sensory issues, and there was giftedness. A lot of really smart youth came to my home. And I also raised 4 children of my own, all to adulthood, very smart, very strong-willed too. And this is what I did to help them. I did not continue to debate them back and forth and back and forth, which is what they want to do. They want to find the solution to their problem through those intelligence channels every time, but they're not necessarily having the full picture. They don't have enough life experience to understand principles all the time as they're trying to hook together all the cognitive dots in their brain. There is a difference between understanding something and being able to syntopically understand something. When a person syntopically understands something, then they can understand why this is right for this person and this person and this person and themselves. They can also understand why making this mistake over here could also give them a lesson for why they shouldn't make it over here. They can also understand how a principle could be applied broadly across the board, and that sometimes following a principle is better than being right, is actually more liberating than being right. Oftentimes with gifted children, we focus so much on their cognitive abilities, we don't actually appeal to the deeper self. We don't appeal to that person inside who's looking for what's right, wrong, good, bad, true, false, and who needs good principles. Just the other day, I was invited over to dinner at some friend's house, and they have a son who is incredibly gifted. Incredibly. So smart. Can line up all the cognitive dots. Can do college work way early in life. But socially, and with his behavior, he doesn't line up the dots. He tries to manipulate sometimes, that's true, because smart people, gifted people are oftentimes pretty good at strategy and manipulation, but what they're not good at sometimes is figuring out how to just become a better version of themselves and create change that way. They are used to looking at what's happening outside of them and trying to work and control those pieces instead of focusing on the inner control that's the true power of the person. That inner control is established by aligning your behaviors, thoughts, and actions with what is right, good, and true, and the version of yourself that you know you ought to become. So here we are. This channel is the Teaching Self-Government channel. And what I've just given you is a very basic understanding of what it means to govern yourself. That means that you are calm, that you bring your actions and thoughts in alignment with who you know you ought to become, which means you reform yourself. You don't just make excuses for yourself. That's a really common gifted child tactic, is all of the excuses with the cognitive backup. But what about just taking responsibility? That's a principle. And there's a lot of liberation, freedom, and future leadership that stems out of being able to take responsibility for yourself. When I spoke with this young man who I was having dinner with his family, he was able to explain so many things to me about religion. He loved God, loved religion, had a deep, deep root there. So I knew that the parents had done a lot of work on his moral formation. But what they had struggled with was his principles, and hooking the principles and the religious and the cognitive and behavioral all together for him. And so as we went throughout the dinner conversation, we hooked a few of those dots together, and the parents continue to work on those by using the TSG parenting course. So I'd like to share with you some practical solutions for how you can help your gifted child learn the self-government principles and skills that they need. Gifted children often question all the time. They debate you. They argue excessively. So what do you do about that? Gifted children get angry easily. They challenge authority incessantly. They have a hard time focusing in sometimes. And then other times they hyper-focus in. They have a hard time understanding cues from other people socially because of that hyper-focus that has a tendency to happen. They get frustrated very easily because of that giftedness that they have. They want to be able to maintain their own thought patterns, and when disruptions come in, they do not like it. So how do we need to frame the training that we do with this gifted child? We shouldn't be framing the self-government training through the intelligence lens, but instead we should be framing that training that we're doing through the principle lens. It's not about what you know and how smart you are. It's about how self-controlled you are. That's going to be your recipe to success. Basically, the message that you have to give your gifted child is being smart doesn't mean that you get a free pass on everything. You have to be self-governed. You have to actually follow through with the routine that you don't like, because they often don't like to have a routine. The goal is to continually assess yourself and keep making strides as self-improvement, which means you have to recognize where you have flaws. People who are super smart, who see all kinds of things cognitively that other people don't see, they struggle with wanting to change themselves because they know they're smart. They can feel it. But socially, they might not be smart. Emotionally, they might not be super smart because they're getting frustrated and anxious all the time. And they can't have a change in a routine. They can't adapt or adjust. That can also be a thing for them. They have to learn how to do that, and it's up to us to teach it. So that brings me to the teaching. What do? We need to teach all of those missing skills of self-government that they need. So there are 4 basic skills of self-government that all children can learn. In fact, even before a child can fully form complete sentences, they can start learning about calmness, which is one of the steps to all the 4 basic skills. These children's books each teach one of the 4 basic skills of self-government, which are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. These books are probably for ages 12 and under, but those 4 basic skills are for all ages. Come on, we all know adults who don't know how to disagree appropriately, who can't take any responsibility for themselves and won't accept consequences. They always just blame other people for everything. These are adult skills that they can start learning when they're young, and this takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. But for the gifted child, they need more information. They need to know the why. They need you to explain the steps to all of these skills, and that is contained in these books. With my foster children that came to my home, I spent a lot of time teaching them the why of everything that I would do in my home. If I'm going to correct them, I'm going to say these exact words, and here's why. I actually created a routine for them, a new routine routine so that they wouldn't have to adjust to something new, but that new routine also answered all of their questions. Every time I would correct them, they knew exactly what I was doing and why. When you are teaching your children self-government, they need to know what's happening in their own brains. They need to know what calmness is, what it isn't, how to assess if they're calm or not. If you can't get them to a place of calmness, you can't actually do the understanding that they need. You can't talk about the problem that is concerning to them. They need to be able to get to that place of calmness first, which means they've got to get to the right part of the brain. I've written multiple different books related to calmness. This one for parents, The Power of Calm, which helps you understand calmness and how to teach them calmness, how to teach them about their brains. But also I've made it even easier for you with your children. These 3 children's books each teach about the brain, about how your brain reacts when it's calm, when it's not calm, and how to get it calm, how to create a calm plan for themselves, and how to choose calm right in the moment when they're having a hard time. Teaching these types of skills are liberating for young people, those gifted children who absolutely need to know more about the why. When a gifted child does their academic studies, they get all kinds of the why and the history and everything else. So why not give that to your gifted child as well? I have a TSG parenting course. It's on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. You can find it there. That course is often done by parents with gifted children because those children just need to understand all of it. And once they understand all of it, they understand the reason why they're going to have to take responsibility for themselves. They have all of the truth at their disposal. Now they have to face it. If we just keep trying to force them in the moment when they're having a problem, they're going to get frustrated and out of control every time. Then we will have these huge meltdowns. Now, speaking of the meltdowns, we do have to be prepared for those things. In the TSG parenting course, I will talk about the rule of 3 and intensive teaching, how to help them get from those out of control outbursts to becoming calm. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com today. Look at that TSG parenting course. Get started. There's a community on there. You can ask me questions every week on those calls. It's going to be a game changer for you and your gifted child.